That's right, our first competitor is the famous and classy British super agent James Bond. When he's not out saving the world from terrorists and thugs, James also enjoys a good game of poker, some martinis, and usually he also enjoys sleeping with anything that has two legs and a pussy. Now, in his first movie, Casino Royale, Bond just earned his 00 status and is sent on a mission to stop an international underground banker who finances global terrorism. While chasing this madman down, James falls in love with a sexy but arrogant MI6 accountant who then is killed off by a mysterious organization that she herself worked for. What a bitch! Going on a bloody revenge trip in Quantum of Solace, Bond finally gets over his dead ex and destroys the mysterious organization, leaving its leader to die in a desert. Finally, in Skyfall, our hero returns as a more mature agent who isn't as blunt or isn't as emotional as he was in the first two movies. In Skyfall, Bond rips a load of new assholes, kicking asses and taking names like never before, and in order to take out a former MI6 agent which has gone on a revenge trip to kill his own boss, M. Needless to say, in the end, our hero kicks his ass and comes out on top.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you are looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you let my daughter go now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
Former CIA preventer Bryan Mills loses his daughter in Paris when she goes out on a band tour with her crazy horny friend Amanda. Like a harbinger of death, Mills goes to Paris unleashing an ungodly firestorm of pain and death, killing everything in his way and finding his daughter in less than 48 hours in a city of over 1 million people across the Atlantic Ocean. A year later in Istanbul, Mills' entire family is put at risk as the Albanian gang that he destroyed back in Paris wanted nothing but revenge for the fall of their sorry family members. In another crazed bloodlust, Mills delivers a second round of ass-kickings. If there's one thing to learn from Bryan Mills is that you just don't take away the daughter of a killing machine and expect to get away with it. And don't even think about revenge, because you'll end up with two sets of death. So in a death match, who would win? Great Britain's super agent or America's bringer of death? CIA preventer or MI6 00 agent? Lifelong bachelor and sex addict or overly protective super dad? The battle lines have been drawn, and this is where dreams are made and usually shattered. Now let us compare both agents' weaponry to start off this segment. And James Bond uses a Walther PPK, standard .35 ACP round, 7-round standard magazine capacity. The Walther PPK is small because it was meant for concealment and self-defense and is used by several European police agencies. Now let us take a look at Bryan Mills' handgun. It is the Beretta M9. It carries a 9mm bullet and holds usually about 15 rounds per standard magazine capacity. When comparing the two guns, it is obvious that Mills has the range because of the longer barrel, he has the heavier, stronger bullet, and he has more rounds to burn down range. So when it comes to terms of weaponry, I'd give Mills the edge over James Bond. Now we get a chance to observe and briefly discuss both men's CQB skills. Bryan Mills is a Very tactically minded CQB guy. He runs quickly for a tall guy, gets around corners quickly, can take quick, accurate shots, and he usually ends up where you don't expect him. Let's just say he's very smart, nonetheless. James Bond, on the other hand, is also very smart. He's a running gunner, very accurate, full of energy, and really no different than Liam Neeson's Bryan Mills. So, given the context of both combatants, I would say that Bryan Mills and James Bond are virtually tied when it comes to CQB. Both are very accurate, they're fast, they're intelligent and tactical, and will use anything around them to basically kill their opponents. So I declare this a sound draw between the two. Here's the fun part, hand-to-hand skills. We'll start off with Bryan Mills. As you can see, he's very quick at dispatching his foes, using superior technique, footwork, and leverage. For an older man, he dispatches his foes very quickly and effectively, even taking on multiple opponents with various ease. This is what you get when someone applies Wing Chun, Krav Maga, and several other stand-up martial arts. This man does not form into a brawler-type mentality, unlike James Bond. As we can see, James Bond tends to rely on his youth and his strength. He does apply some various techniques that he learned at MI6, of course, but there are the occasional lapses in his defense and his offense. Sometimes he gets too overly aggressive and messes up. There's also the occasional time where our friend Bond has trouble with a simple henchman and eventually requires the help of someone nearby, like, for instance, the sexy accountant that eventually betrays him. Overall, Bond is still an effective hand-to-hand guy. He's gotten rid of many of his opponents hand-to-hand, but he just tends to be more of a brawler, and he tends to have more difficulty than Bryan Mills. So, if these two were to go hand-to-hand, I'd definitely give the technique and the edge to Bryan Mills. Even though James Bond may be younger and stronger, Mills would definitely be able to handle him. So the edge goes to Bryan Mills. Now we take a look at both competitors' X factors, starting off with James Bond. Mr. Bond has the innate ability to stay cool and calm under pressure, like any true professional, despite being emotional and blunt at times. But that's not all. This guy, well, can you ride a bike on the rooftops of Istanbul? That's right, this guy is incredibly good with riding any type of vehicle, whether it be a bike, a car, an airplane, a scooter, the little wheelchair that your grandma uses to go to Walmart. He could probably use it better than anyone else can. He prefers Aston Martins, and he's very good at driving, especially when it comes to just driving with a car. I mean, he's good on the pavement and off the pavement. And he's just a true professional. You won't see Bryan Mills doing any of this. But to top that off, he also has an amazing pain tolerance. In Casino Royale, he was tortured, smashed into balls by a rope, kicked down on the floor, and he almost had his nuts cut off. If that's not it, when things get tough for him, he tends to be crafty and smart and finds a way to get out most of the time. Whoa. But that's not all. Bond is also a lot stronger and a lot younger than his opponent Bryan Mills, allowing him to go places Mr. Mills won't be able to go, like doing basic parkour on a construction site. Whoops-a-daisy. Now we take our eyes and we look at Bryan Mills. capable driver, he is nowhere within James Bond's league. However, I will give Bryan Mills a higher IQ. He's a lot smarter and well more experienced than James Bond. Probably wouldn't allow Bond to take advantage of his age or his ability to drive anywhere. But ultimately, when you factor versatility, youth, and strength, the X Factor edge goes to James Bond. It's time for the verdict. Weapons, Mills gets the edge. CQB, it's a complete draw. Martial skill, Mills gets the edge. And the X Factor barely goes to Bond. Now, we must ask each other, how would these guys go at each other? Well, the most likely scenario would probably be a search and destroy. One of them would have a reason to look for each other and to kill each other. Here I would argue that Mills would find Bond first. He's more resourceful. He was able to find his daughter in a city of over 1 million in less than 48 hours without the help of an entire agency. So I would argue that Mills finds Bond first. And since he finds Bond, he would take away Bond's X-Factor edge in the sense that he won't allow him to drive away or use any other means to get away. He would make the battle or the battlefield favor him. Now, when the battle actually commences, this is the interesting part. It would be an amazing firefight. I mean, it would be crazy. Bullets would be flying all over the place. Bond would probably have more magazines on him because he's got a smaller gun, but Mills would have a longer range and he would have a stronger stopping power. But since both of these guys are fairly accurate and crazy good at CQB, they would probably run out of bullets. And eventually both men would end up having to capture each other in hand-to-hand. When these two get close with each other, it would be very quick. It would probably be about a 2-minute fight. You would see Mills's technique struggling against Bond's tenacity, youth, and strength. But in the end, what you would see is Bond slowly eroding. You would see him getting tired because Mills would be overwhelming him with his leverage and his technique and his footwork. Mills, on the other hand, would be taking some pain as Bond knows how to play a little dirty and can be smart at times when he needs to be. But ultimately, I would give the win to Mills in a hand-to-hand situation, which is what it would probably evolve into at the end. And seeing that Mills has a complete edge in this category, I would give the win to Mills. However, I only believe Mills would win about 56% of the times because we're talking about James Bond here. And he's just so versatile that anything could happen. And if it's outside of hand-to-hand and choosing the environment that he wants, Mills would lose. It's that simple, because Bond is just incredibly versatile. But at the end of the day, it would most likely end up with a scenario where these two end up in a firefight, they close the distance, and Mills wins, killing Bond hand-to-hand.